I had a lot of videos out. And then I want to talk about something that I don't really give as much energy to as I used to. It's going to be a little bit political, but what we've been up to is over this weekend, we went down to the mountain to some friends and family's little mountain spot, set off a few fireworks, went swimming in the river, rock crawling in the Ford Escape, poked a hole in the oil filter and had to do a little repair there on the side of the mountain. But it was fun. That was the first time we've actually just went and did anything for ourselves in probably over 2 months. We haven't done anything just for ourselves. We haven't just taken any time off. There might have been some time when we was just kind of sitting around the house like, whoa, we've been busy. We've got to get fired up and get wheels turning on the farm. We've got fence to build. We've got cows to move. We've got goats to bring over to the house. And we're still having to maintain the other property while it's on the market. We've just been slammed with stuff. Vehicles, one vehicle after another has been down on us. We've done wheel bearings and ball joints on the Escape. We've done drive lines on the Dodge, air conditioner on the Dodge, air conditioning on the Chevy pickup. There's a list of work to do on the vehicles still yet. We've been good. Hello, cousin. We've been good. But we've been busy, so we haven't got any content out. So, just a little update. That's why. Stick with us. We want to get some good content out. We want to share some of the stuff that we've been up to. We want to get some of that stuff out. Now, here's what I was just checking out recently was that I started off with Trump because I feel like Trump's like the epitome of all this. I should just say politics in general. What? Say my name. But I was just reading into the FBI released footage that proves that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, or that he did kill himself, which is weird because initially they told everybody that there was no footage, but now they have footage. But hold up. There are people who are pointing out discrepancies in their footage that might indicate that this footage is AI generated. So, guys, believe like fractions of what you even see. Unless it's in real life, you can't believe any of this stuff. I mean, you can't believe anything a politician says to you. I don't care if it's Trump. See, let me explain my viewpoint on Donald Trump. Just so people don't get upset and go, I can't believe you don't like Trump. What do you want, Kamala? Just so people don't do that. Kamala is not even a viable option compared to Trump, which is why they gave you Kamala. But let's reverse back. Let's reverse my history back with let's go back and look at my history with how I viewed Trump. So in the beginning, I was more of a just a Republican, conservative. I thought I needed to vote my conscience, and I was more of a Ted Cruz person than Trump. But then Trump started doing some stuff like he started calling the media fake news, and I was like, yeah, fake news, get them, and I was pumped. It's like, man, I like this guy. The economy was doing real well under Trump's first term. I was like, man, you know what? I'm doing good. I like this guy. I was full blown MAGA. I was all about it. Fast forward to the end of his term, we have COVID rolling out, and I wasn't a big fan of the solution. Was not a big fan of it, but I was even like, Trump's just in there with people. He's just got these serpents in there with him, and he's just, maybe he's ignorant to some stuff. I don't know. And I had to kind of rationalize for him. Finally, I got to the point where I'm not going to rationalize for this guy. If I'm going to tell people I like him, I've also got to criticize why I don't like him. So with warp speed and all that being said, I got to the point to where I was like, you know what? I'm starting to not like this guy more than I like him. Hello, Jace. You got in on one of my political rants. But so Trump, I was on a rocky terms with Trump, but I was still going to vote for him his second term, and I did. Well, I don't know if everybody else remembers this, but I do. Trump was winning at midnight, and they were just like, you know what? Kind of looks like a landslide for Trump, but we need to quit counting. First time since I've been alive that they would just quit counting and not tell you who the president was overnight. So we wake up in the morning, they're like, surprise! All these states flipped, and suddenly they got like 40 and 60,000 votes in all at once, and they're all for Joe Biden, and then they gave us this bumbling idiot where we would be begging for something better than Joe Biden. I mean, good gosh, it was miserable with Joe Biden in there. And they had us all just begging for something better. And then we all knew Joe Biden wasn't going to run against Trump. We all knew eventually they were going to replace Joe Biden with somebody else. And, during that process, I was thinking, if they want to beat Trump, they're going to have to be real good. I was thinking they're going to have to pick somebody who can speak well, somebody who, despite being a raging liberal, they're going to have to pick somebody that is able to speak fluently, no matter how liberal their ideas are, but they're going to have to pick somebody who's somewhat popular. And I was, I'm thinking through all these different people. I'm like, man, they could be dangerous to Trump. This one could be dangerous to Trump. But out of all those that I was like, they might have a chance at beating Trump, Kamala Harris was not one of them. They gave you Donald Trump because they knew that's what you wanted. That they knew that that's what would keep you pacified. They gave you Donald Trump. There was no election win. The same way, I already told you, the same way that they took the election from Trump, which we all know they did, and that was selected, so was this one. They got exactly who they want in office right now. So with that being said, whenever they picked Kamala Harris, I decided, although Kamala Harris is clearly a very bad candidate for president, I decided I wouldn't vote. I didn't like J.D. Vance. And I'll tell you this right now. People are probably listening. They're going, well, J.D. Vance, he's got Christian conservative values. He's just that boy from West Virginia or wherever he's from. And, just country boy. I'll tell you this right now. He's already changed his name 3 times. Thrice he's changed his name. I'm sorry. I don't know any country boys been changing their names. I don't. That's already weird. You can go look it up. You can look up why. You decide if you think it was weird why he changed his name. But I'll tell you this also. The Bible says that a husband and wife must be equally yoked. That's not like equally yoked in the sense of like, the woman gets as equal say-so as the man. What it's talking about is they must be equally yoked. They must both understand who God is. They must understand his order. Gabe's like, yeah, I hope so. But equally yoked in the sense of where you spiritually are. You both must know who God is. You must both understand the order of God. God, the husband, the wife, in that spiritual sense. Well, J.D. Vance's wife is actually Hindu, and when he married her, they actually had Hindu services in their wedding. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but All right, we'll see you. Tell Grandpa Buster that I love him. So, anyways, talking to family in there. So, what I was getting at is J.D. Vance. He's not a Christian, guys. And I'll tell you another reason why he's not a Christian. Not just because of who he married and how he compromised and had Hindu vows in his wedding. Because, first of all, marriage is a covenant between a man and a woman before God. Not before many gods, not before Hindu gods, but it's a covenant between a man and a woman. Oh, what I was getting at was the biggest funder of J.D. Vance, who's put him where he is now, is Peter Thiel. Guys, go back to, I think it was 2016, Republican RNC, Peter Thiel speech. Go type that in and find it, because he says he is a proud gay conservative. So, just from a biblical perspective, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you do, but I'm telling you right now, as a Christian, from a Christian perspective, you are not a Christian if you're a proud gay. Two sins against you. Being gay is a sin. Second sin is the pride. I'm not saying you can't sin and be a Christian. I think that someone could actually have gay tendencies and be a Christian, but they must know what they're doing is a sin, and they must be repentant, and they must not act on them. We are an apostate if we're acting on our sinful lust and desires. But Peter Thiel is the number one funder of J.D. Vance. If you were a Christian, you would not be taking your money from a man like that. And recently, when Peter Thiel was asked if he thought that humanity had a right to exist, essentially, he couldn't answer the question. He kind of stuttered, Also, Peter Thiel is the backer of the software Palantir, which Trump just dumped billions of dollars into. And that software is very dangerous. It is going to categorize, label, and list us all. It's a tracking software. It's going to have all your biometrics, everything about you, an entire file. Just get on ChatGPT and say, type me up a business plan for whatever it is. Like, think of a business that you have in your idea right now, in your head. Think of that business, go into ChatGPT and say, give me a business plan on how to do X, Y, and Z. See how long it takes for it to generate that business plan. Now, imagine a day, you're a Christian, right? Imagine a day where it's persecution of you for being a Christian, which is prophesied that day is going to come, and it has come for some people. Okay, let's not even theorize. Let's say, okay, you're in communist China, and President Xi says, you got to take down anything that resembles Jesus, and you got to put me up there as president of this country because I'm your provider. I give you what you need, not your Jesus. And instantly he says, go to this software like Palantir or similar to Palantir, and he says, let's see who actively is violating my command to not worship Jesus. And in the snap of his fingers, he's got all the data right there, and it says, Mr. So-and-so right here is actively posting a YouTube live, and he's proclaiming Jesus Christ. And we've got his biometrics right here. See that? My biometrics. See my face? There's coming a day right here in this country where when I do this, they're going to want to come get me. I know it's hard to believe. I know we just went through 4th of July and we just celebrated our freedom and blew firecrackers up and stuff. There's coming a day where actively they are going to come after us as Christians. If you're a true Christian, if you will not deny Jesus. And I'll tell you, I'm good. How are you? I'm just kind of on a spiritual, political rant, kind of explaining why I don't participate in politics, really. But what I was getting at is our government, our federal government, our president, his people that he's put in place are not really friendly. They're not friendly to real Christian values. They are a false state that appears to go along with us, but they're not actually conducive to true Christianity. Yeah, all that in a nutshell. And also, I was explaining why we haven't got any videos out. We've just been super busy working. Started a fencing and land clearing company, and we've been hooked up with that. We bought the new property and haven't even really got started on any of our stuff for the new property as far as getting our animals situated and moved over. So we still kind of got animals scattered at our old property that's for sale, and neighbors, the rain, man, everything's just big crazy. And we've just now taken 2 days off. First 2 days that we've just actually taken off and said we're not going to work at all. But yeah, I don't like for example, I explained how I used to participate in politics and I used to go vote and I used to do all that. But I explained how that kind of tapered off. I still like to speak my mind a little bit on it, but mine is from a different perspective now because I've played the game, I've participated, I've served in the military, I've done my 4 years of active duty. And I'll tell you what, that right there, if you've never been active duty military, it offers a completely different perspective, which I actually, just this weekend, I ran into another guy that used to be active duty military, and we differed on some biblical values and stuff like that. And, you know, I didn't back out of my conversation and deny any of my values, even though he tried to put me in a tough predicament on some. But aside from that, you could tell that somebody who's been active duty military has a different perspective on the voting system and politics and wars. And I'll tell you this, somebody who's been in the military rarely, when they're out, cheerleads for a war. I mean, just look with this whole Iran-Israel subject. Look across the board. You got all these Navy SEALs and stuff who've been there and done more than I ever did. But you got everything from Navy SEALs to people like me to people who've done less, people done more. You got everything in between. And on average, most people go, they go, we don't want that war. It's just like the last wars we were in. The last wars gained us absolutely nothing. Millions of people were killed or wounded, and nobody won anything. We didn't gain anything as a country. We only lost. People lost children. People lost dads. People lost mental health. They lost physical health. People died. People in other countries, more people than in other countries died than we had done. But we never gained anything. And it's from the perspective of people who served during these wars, it's more common to see things from that lens than, oh yeah, war, you know. But you got all these people who've never even served who were pro, let's go to war with Iran. You got people on the news who are saying we need to go to war. You got pastors at churches saying we need to go to war for Israel. You got all this stuff. But you got a lot of people saying these things that don't have a dog in the fight. They don't have no children in the military. They don't have, you know, they're too old to fight these wars. And it's real sad, is what it is. I used to be like big time pro war. I used to be like, I used to think that, we should turn the whole Middle East to glass. It used to be the way I thought. But I feel like I've done a lot of maturing since then. I still got some to do, but it's it definitely offers a different perspective. But honestly, my kids will be able to do whatever they want when they're old enough to. But I'll do everything within my ability to try to keep them from joining the military. And I'm blessed for, I get a pretty good check from the military, uh, from my military service and whatnot, and I'm blessed from that perspective. But honestly, if they said lose all this or go through and redo, go back through everything you went through, I'd say no. I don't want that check. I, you know, I could live a lot more modest, and I would before I would go back through and join the military again. Honestly, I feel like I feel very lucky to be able to say that I didn't have to kill anybody in those wars because, in my opinion, those wars were not justified in the eyes of God. So I feel very lucky. I feel blessed that I didn't have to do that. At the time, it would have been just doing my job. It would have just been, what I would have thought I was doing the right thing. But looking back now with a different perspective, and honestly, a more refined biblical perspective of these things, I'm glad that I never got put in that situation. But that's just a little perspective of on what I think about politics. Oh, what got me started on this though was the fact that I don't know if I ever really fully covered but I just seen that supposedly the Epstein videos were released proving that he eliminated himself, or whatever the word is that you're allowed to use on YouTube, but unalived himself. But there was video footage supposedly released of that after they had said forever that the cameras weren't working, and they want people to just believe that now the cameras were working. Uh, but you see how they gave, and that's example of how politics works. They seen that in America, the trust of the FBI was like, woo, way down. So what they did is they they needed to bring the trust back up. So they brought in like Cash Patel. And remember how Cash Patel released the Russiagate information and proved that they were running a a witch hunt or whatever against Trump with Russiagate. Cash Patel gained great popularity amongst conservatives, right? So once Trump got in, he's like, oh yeah, FBI director Cash Patel. And then they used Cash Patel to try to dispel all the stuff that Epstein was doing. Epstein was running he was running these smear campaigns on politicians, getting them in compromised positions with underage girls and maybe boys and whatever, or just in freak shows that would ruin their family life, would ruin their public view, like the public opinion of them, because they're public figures, getting them in compromised positions. That's what Epstein was doing with Hollywood actors, so that Hollywood actors can then take roles to force people into taking roles to influence people down the wrong path, to influence political actors to pass legislations to benefit certain people, countries, or whatever you have. I could get into what country's probably getting the most benefit out of the Epstein clients, but I'm not going to. mean, if you know, you know. If I try to tell you, you'll just hate me. But so obviously Epstein was being used. Oh, well, I'll tell you this much, by Mossad. And you just go do your research on Mossad. And they were framing people, blackmailing them. And then all of a sudden, once Trump gets in there and he gets his FBI guy in there, now there's video footage. After 5 years, oh, we found the video footage that we told you was gone and that was malfunctioned. And by the way, there never was a list of people, you know. And so, yeah, that's what started all this. I was like, man, this is just one of those things where I got to remind people, get rid of your faith in politics. Get rid of it. It's a disease. It is a false religion to trust any of these politicians, and that includes Trump. And you know, I got a lot of friends that are probably big time MAGA people. I've been there. I've been there. Here's what I'll say. If you hate me because I don't like Trump or I don't trust Trump, then I guess we're not friends. I don't hate you because you like Trump. I don't hate people that are like, oh, I need to vote for Joe Biden. I'm just going, wow, well, you might be a little confused, you know? I don't know. Hate me? I don't care. I really don't. I just wanted to share that perspective, so maybe somebody could start questioning somebody. You know, you can say, this was awesome, this was good, what this politician provided me is good. Like, I'm not going to get taxed on overtime, or I don't have to pay a tax stamp for a suppressor. That's cool. No tax on tips. That's cool if you're a waitress. Go ahead and be excited for that. I'm not telling you to not be excited for that. But what you also have to look at is what else was in those bills. 10 years of no regulation on artificial intelligence was in that bill, the big beautiful bill. And honestly, I look at artificial intelligence as way worse than any nuke that any country could possess. If we've had wars over preventing people from getting nuclear bombs, and now we've just deregulated the production and ramping up of artificial intelligence for 10 years in this country. Instead of going into an arms race for AI, what we need to be doing is saying, how do we limit AI? We need to be throttling AI down. We need to be limiting the production and the improvements to AI, because we don't need an AI arms race. We don't need that. If anything, we should be fighting wars to stop AI, not fighting wars to stop people from getting nuclear bombs. Because I'm telling you, it's more detrimental. It's worse. How many nukes have been actually used as weapons since they've been around? Only two. Only 2 nukes have been used. And guess what country used them? We did. America did it. So we did it out of national interest. And we actually used them on civilian populations. Killed tons of people who were women and children. We did, as America. So who are we to really run around and say that this country can't have its national interest? Who are we? How about if we respected our enemies and neighbors well enough that we could say, hey, we're not Muslim and we don't agree with what you're doing in your country. We don't agree with how you treat women, but also we respect that that's your culture. You do you in your country and we'll do us in our country. And we quit blowing them up, quit killing random leaders over there, and quit instigating and quit defending Israel, because I could get into what Israel truly is. I could get into hours of talking on that. Israel are those who have faith in Christ. They are the seed of Abraham. By faith, we're the seed of Abraham. And It says not to disregard the roots because they're holy, but it does tell you that if they do not have faith in Christ, their branches are struck away. So what that tells you is we're not replacing anybody. I don't believe in a replacement theology. I believe in the new covenant through Christ, through faith, you can be saved. And that says, hey, holy root stock, the Jewish people, if you're truly Jewish, if you're truly a Semitic Jew from the tribes of Israel, get on board because the train's leaving. Keep your spot in the seed of Abraham. You know what the definition of a nation is? It's an ethnicity of people. And that's important because people will say, well, in the book of Genesis, it tells you to bless the nation of Israel and you will be blessed. So in the Old Covenant, that was a nation of people, an ethnicity. The tribes of Israel were ethnicities. Think of it in American terms. When you hear the term Cherokee Nation, Osage Nation, what are you talking about? You're talking about Native Americans, ethnicities, tribes. So we're talking ethnicity. But what was the promise to Abraham? That he would have many seed, countless seed. What was that promise fulfilled? It was fulfilled by Christ. The seed of Abraham are through Christ. Through Christ, we are the seed of Abraham. So when it says, bless the nation of Israel, what is the nation of Israel again? It's ethnicity. But we were grafted in as Gentiles. So think of it like your stepchild. Think of a stepchild who was adopted by his stepfather, but became his son. It was a legal adoption. It's not his blood son, but is he now his kin? Is he now his descendant? If say a man has two sons, he has a blood son and an adopted son, and he adopts the son, and because he adopts the son, the blood son denies his dad. Who does the dad give? Who's the father give his inheritance? Does he give it to his blood son, or does he give it to his son who will do what he asks of him, his adopted son? Who gets the inheritance? And I think it's Mark chapter 12 talks about the tenants of the vineyard. A man creates a vineyard and rents it out. And they won't pay him. So what's he do? He sends his son there, and they kill his son. They kill his son, and then what should he do to them for killing his son? So you see, Israel are those of the seed of Abraham. The nation of Israel are those who have faith in Christ. And ultimately, back to what I was saying earlier, we will be persecuted for being the nation of Israel. We will be. We will be punished by those. First of all, Trump has had rabbis at some of his events who said that they would like to see us united under the 7 Noahide laws. Do you know what one of those Noahide laws is? Having no false idols. See, the problem with that is I believe in idolatry. I believe it's an ultimate sin to deny Christ. But the problem is the Noahide laws are those of Jewish people. They're a Talmudic thing. They have nothing to do with Christianity. And in fact, as a Talmudic believing Jewish person, worshiping Christ is a false idol. Do you know what the punishment of idolatry is, according to the Noahide laws? Death. The punishment is death. A beheading, actually, to behead you. is the punishment. So I know I went super deep and super heavy into this, but I just felt convicted to tell you people these things. And if you followed me to this point, I I appreciate you listening. Sometimes I just feel like I have to talk to people about this stuff, and if only two or three people hear it and it helps them understand some of the things that are going on, then that's all it was meant for, was that one, two, three people's ears. I don't ever plan on being popular for what I believe and for being a Christ follower. I don't ever plan on that making me popular. In fact, there's been times where I watch this little icon of how many people are in this chat, and as soon as I say the name Christ, drops off. So, with that being said, probably the success of my YouTube channel is not gonna trend well. Uh, Clearly, certain trigger words does not allow people to get my content, and I'm okay with that. But anyways, just thought I'd rant back and forth here and there, and I'm gonna get off here.